2006 or 7. I think it's a 7. Yeah, it's made of August of 06. So an 07 Dodge Ram, 1500 with the 5.7 Hemi. Issue is it's a crank no start. So I'll crank it here. So you can see the RPM gauge move, so it tells me you got a crank signal. But it's a crank no start using the Auto Ultra VCMI with the Ultra. Full system scan is showing in the engine computer a camshaft position sensor, bank 1 sensor 1, P0340 stored, battery voltage low in the airbag, CAN B bus. Don't care about that. Central gateway CAN B bus. Circuit open CAN B bus radio, overhead CAN B bus. I'm going to go ahead and erase these. The cranking sounded solid, like there's not a dead cylinder or nothing. So we're going to pull up some more data, see if the cam and crank are in sync, possibly scope the crank sensor and the cam sensor. I was told that the customer already put a cam and crank sensor in this, I believe, so if I heard correctly. So we're just going to clear them all, which are all green. We're going to run it again and see what comes back. RPM signal. Do a fault scan again. Got a good battery, at least that's good. Got one of the ECM. ECM, TCM should be one computer on this. Should be a 4-plug computer. Yeah, 4-plug computer. So the TCM's part of the ECM on this Dodge. Just come on, scan. Sorry about the glare as usual. One code is probably a P0340. Yes, it is. So we're going to look up some live data here and possibly hook up the scope and get into schematics, and then we'll go from there. So let me get that pulled up next. Alrighty, so I'm pulling up some data in here. I'm going to pull up, I don't want that. I'm going to pull up, let's see what I want here. If I want any of this stuff. Come on. Cam sync state, I want that. It's all to sync right now because it's not running. Crank signal missing, I want that. Crank sync state. Let's do that. I don't want that one. So I want to make sure the top there we're not losing security, which I don't think we would have a light. Engine speed, so let's just crank it. So engine speed, cam, crank sync, cam sync. So if you looked, the cam sync was out of sync once our data comes back. Oh, come on, refresh. I lost the data because I turned the damn key off. Let me do it again. But you could see that there, everything was reading good. We had no security issue. We had engine RPMs. We had crank sync, but no cam sync. Yep, no cam sync, the top one. So, let's pull up a schematic, put a scope right on it, and then we'll go from there. Alrighty, so the cam sensor on this guy, you can see it in there. It's right there. It focuses. Anyways, you can see it down there. It's a 3-wire Hall effect sensor. We're going to go ahead and pull up schematics here. Get to the signal wire. I just want to put a scope on it real quick. See if we got a waveform. It does look new down there. for sure does look new, so let me get that pulled up next. Alrighty, so there's your cam sensor and your crank sensor. So your cam sensor, come on computer, has a 5/0 reference, a signal, and a ground. And the ground is shared by the cam and the crank. So we want to get to the cam sensor pin 1, which is a dark blue and a gray wire. I'm going to hook up to that. We'll go from there and check that out next. Alright, I'm going on pin 1, dark blue with the gray. I got my Phillips probe on the dark blue with the gray. Other lead to battery ground. Wires are clear. We're gonna do a, well, I could split screen it, but I really don't need this right now. Go to oscilloscope. Once this pulls up, go to 20 volt scale. We'll start with 1 second, and then yeah, I got no square wave. That should be a 0 to 5 volt square wave. So I have 5 volts right there. If you look, position 1, I have 5 volts, but it should be going down to 0. So if I go to 10 volts, it's gonna make it easier to look at. There's 5 volts. I have no square wave. I have a 5/0 ref, so let's check. I mean, we're gonna have 5 volts to it, obviously. We don't need to check that other wire, but we can, and we'll check the ground. And we need to look if it's a bad sensor or if something's going on with that encoder wheel. Well, we'll just film this too. So the other wire, pin 2, is sensor ground, dark blue and dark green. Dark blue with the dark green tracer, which is right there. Steve's eating. Did you give me my Gatorade?
Gatorade's right there.
Oh, nice. So now let's just look here, make sure the ground's good. Which it is 0 volts. That's good. A little bit of hash from the cranking. That's fine. Let's just make sure a 5 volt reference is good, which we know is going to be good because it's stuck at 5 volts. But hell, since we're here, we'll do it. Now we're on the yellow with a pink tracer, pin 3. Should have 5 volt reference from the PCM when I hit play, which I do. 5 volt, it's right there. But we have nothing taken at the ground. So, all of our wire integrity seems fine. It's got to either be an A bad sensor they put in, or B, something wrong with the encoder wheel. We can take it out and use this steel wrench and see if we can make a square wave. We'll maybe do that next. Alright, so we got the new sensor out of there, probed on the signal wire, which again is pin 1, dark blue and gray. And my assistant Steve-O, or Stevie, or Steven, or Steve is his name, is going to take a piece of metal, go across it, and act like it's fast like that, and close as it can without touching it, to act like it's making a square wave. While he's doing that, go ahead and do it. There he made a square wave, square wave, square wave, square wave. Boom, down to 0. 5 volts to 0. So he's making a square wave, which tells me that that sensor and wire integrity is all good. Now we need to look in that hole with a bore scope and see if there's something wrong in there. Let's do that next. Alright, we're going to bore scope it. I wonder if we just got a bad sensor, because you see movement on the, you see the scope up here? It'll find the hole. Let me put my camera down while I get in the hole. Alrighty, we're in the hole. And you can see the reluctor wheel there. Can you hold that? Perfect. Steve's going to go ahead and crank it. I want to see that move.
Ready?
Go. Stop. One more time. Stop. So it's moving. Good. So the only thing that's not, which is a good thing that's moving, is either A, our air gap on this thing is not correct, or B, there is an issue with the sensor. Even though we're making it work, we're almost touching it with metal on that. So maybe it is a sensitivity issue, so we might have to get a new sensor and go from there. All right, so we got a different crank sensor here. We got a couple different brand ones. Standard Products, Duralast, different ones, but it's doing the same thing. But I put this, when I put this in here and check the depth and measure it from where the end of the crank sensor is going to sit for air gap, I got about, I don't know, 1/4 inch of air gap, which seems kind of like a lot. So Steve's going to go ahead and do it again with his wrench with this new sensor. Trying to leave about 1/4 inch while we're on the scope. He's got about, yeah, so he's making a square wave there. Not going all the way to ground there. Get a little bit closer. There we go. So that's a good square wave. So we'll put it back in, but I'm wondering if there's an air gap issue. Now there is a TSB. The software that's in this vehicle is this one that ends in 8K that needs to go to this one to AL. They address an erroneous P0340. That's not going to fix this issue. We can do the software update anyways, but that's not going to fix it because we're looking at what the computer's supposed to see. If we have no crank signal, then what is it going to do? We're going to put that one back in there, the new one, because there's already a new one in there from the customer. Put that in, we'll scope it again and see where we're at, and go from there. All right, so we got a Duralast one in now, and we do got a square wave here. Watch it. So we got a square wave. That noise is from the starter, but let's go ahead and read codes now. All right, so I cleared the codes. Key on engine off, we'll read them. Still no start, we'll read them again. No codes, let's do it again. Read them again. No codes, what the hell is going on? Let's go to our live data here, sync status. So we got a square wave now. Look, they're both in sync. If you remember earlier in this video, the cam said it was out of sync. Now the cam says it's in sync. So we do got a square wave now. Maybe our fuel pump's not turning on. Let's take a look. So we cranked it a few more times. The cam's in sync. We have no codes. We go back to our scope. Watch it again. So we got a good square wave. That hash is just from the starter. But go to read codes, nothing. And it goes to in sync. So we went to active test here. We turned on our fuel pump control and we couldn't hear any fuel. Could we, Steve?
No.
So let's look at that next. See if we're getting spark or not getting spark or getting fuel, or vice versa. We'll take a look at that next. Steve's going to hop back in the truck real quick and we're going to check spark. Just to eliminate that, I think we got a fuel issue now. Got my test light to ground. Hang on, I'll tell you when. Okay, go. Stop. We go one more time here. Hang on. Go. Okay, stop. Sorry, it's not the best camera angle, but we do got good spark. So We're gonna go after fuel next. All right, before we go after fuel, I'm gonna do an injector quick test. We're on the wire that goes to the computer with a 20-to-1 attenuator on my scope so I don't blow my scope. Got a trigger on. All right, so we got a good injector waveform. It's opening on milliseconds, magnetic field collapsing, going up to almost 80 volts when it collapses, and our pinhole hump moving. So we got spark, we got injector movement. We're not getting fuel, I don't believe. So what we're gonna do now is go to our fuel pump, which is right here, goes to a ground. However, the TIPM controls this through a relay on the board, I believe. So what we're gonna do is go to connector C10 pin 18 with that orange and red wire. We're gonna see if we get power coming out of this fuse box, TIPM. Totally integrated power module. Going to the pump. If we do, we got a bad pump or wiring back there. If we don't, we're gonna give it 12 volts and go from there. So that's the next step to troubleshoot this. But we got a cam signal now. Correlation between the cam and crank is good. We just gotta get a feel and go from there. All right. So I'm on connector 10 pin 18. Orange with the registration on the back of the TIPM. Using this kind of a half-ass power probe. But 0 volts, you'll hear it change. It'll change to this tone when I turn it on, if the TIPM's working. Psycho key, you listen, it turns on, and then it'll turn off. If we go to fuel pump relay, if we toggle it on and off, you'll hear it turn on and off. 0 volts, 12 volts. So let's turn it off. So the output control of that tip, I'm going to the fuel pump, is good. Or if I just go on, it should be 12 volts constantly. Right, so we're getting voltage to our pump. I just don't think we're getting any pressure. All right, so what I want to do now is I want to hook up a fuel pressure gauge to the Schrader valve just to confirm mechanically. I don't know if you can see it under there, but we'll hook it up if we're getting fuel pressure or not. If we are, we got to go somewhere else. I just want to hear the pump on that I can hear, but my hearing sucks. But I want to check that. But I also notice we always get these CAN B bus faults, open bus circuit codes through the central gateway, which is the TIPM. Your CAN B bus is these. Your CAN C bus is these. So we can obviously talk to those. We need to look at that and see, because the airbag CAN B bus, central gateway CAN B bus open. I'm gonna have to take a look at that. I don't know if that's causing an issue. I want to check fuel next, and then we may have to go down this road and go from there. All right, since I don't have a fuel pressure gauge with, I got up to the other place. Steve's just gonna press that Schrader valve there. See if we get any kind of fuel coming out at all. Right, Steve-O? Just don't get that in your face. I'm ready? Yeah. I'm gonna prime it. Cranking it now. Anything?
Couple drips, no spray.
Couple drips, no spray. That's not good.
Just a little bit of wet right there.
More than you're used to, though. But so yeah, that's definitely needs to be spraying out. It was just dripping, you said, right? We got a fuel issue now. Is it the pump or is it the background? We need to go from there. All right, so Steve's on his back there. He's tapping the fuel pump or fuel tank. We got it to run for a second. Do it again. Stop. Stop. So it did run. We didn't get it on video there, but we had it run for like 5 seconds. So that proves that it is a fuel pump as well wrong with this truck. Try it again, Steve. I stop? So, we'll do one last scan, but he just proved it needed a fuel pump. We didn't catch all that on video, but it did start to run, and then it died, and then it ran, and then it died. So, it definitely needs a fuel pump. So, we'll have to pull the bed off and do that. Or drop the tank, I mean, and then replace the pump. Alrighty, so while Steve was hitting, I was doing the active test here. I got it to come on and off once in a while. But it needs a pump. We'll have to drop the tank, put a pump in. That'll fix that. The cam sensor had a bad one, so that's fixed now. Just got to put a pump in. This truck will be good to go. So that is it for this 2007 Dodge Ram 1500 with the 5.7 Hemi.